If you think whiskey's expensive, think again. Some are not. We're gonna show you some of our favorite whiskeys that are under $35.
And we're gonna show you how you can find them. All right, guys, we got option number 1 here, which is Larsen, which you can find for an average about $22 in a local liquor store. So very affordable option. On the bottle, you're gonna see the name John E. Fitzgerald. And back in the day, he was a US Treasury agent, and he had access to the rick houses where they keep all the barrels, where the bourbon is aged. He goes into these rick houses and he steals some of the bourbon from the barrels, and he takes it home in jugs for himself. They ended up calling those the Fitzgerald barrels because they found out that he had been stealing bourbon from the barrels. They called it Larsen in his honor.
Look at that.
So I thought that was one of the cooler backstories when it comes to the bourbon world, and this is one of my recent favorites, and we're gonna give it a shot.
Can't wait. Let's do this. So right off the top, I'm getting like these nutty notes. I think this is one of those whiskeys that are very easily accessible. You could mix it in a cocktail, or you could drink it on your own. You're gonna have a great time with it. This is a very good whiskey. I get nutty notes. I get vanilla. I get a little hint of cinnamon there towards the end, towards the finish. This is great, and it's not even $30, guys. I mean, this is one that you can definitely have in your shelf whenever you have friends that do like whiskey. You could pull it out, drink it, and not feel like you're splurging or wasting a ton of money.
Yeah, for the price, this is an excellent bourbon. So again, Larsen, highly recommend trying it out if you're looking for bourbon on a budget.
All right, guys, so for my list, I'm gonna recommend to you Elijah Craig. So Elijah Craig, a lot of people don't know this, but he's called the father of bourbon.
Call me Daddy.
Homer.
Daddy.
Homer.
Daddy.
Because he is the first person to age his mash bill in a brand new charred oak cask. And that's what a lot of people consider him to be the father of bourbon. Not only that, Elijah Craig is ridiculously inexpensive at $28 MSRP. Highly recommend getting it. This is another one that you could get in any liquor store. You're gonna get some notes of caramel, a little nuttiness to it, a little bit of coffee in it. It's very easily accessible, and it's very easy to drink. It's very smooth whiskey. That to me is one of my favorites.
Elijah Craig, they put out a whole line of products, but if you want their small batch, then it's a great price.
Small batches are usually a lot more expensive because small batch generally means that it's a small batch. They don't make a ton of it. That's more of a marketing name. However, for it being a small batch, it's still a very good bargain.
So for my second option and third overall, we're gonna go with 1792, another small batch. 1792 just refers to the year that Kentucky became a state, and Kentucky is home to so many bourbons.
Well, bourbon comes from the name of Bourbon, Kentucky. Or so they say. It hasn't been confirmed yet. But the vast majority believe that bourbon comes from the name of Bourbon County.
I did not know that.
Well,
I just learned this right now.
there you go. Now you know.
So for 1792 here, you can actually find this for an average of about $30 on the shelf. So very affordable for a very good flavor. Their 12-year, which is very hard to find, has won a bunch of awards in recent years, but the small batch is a good entry level into the 1792 brand and very affordable. You're gonna have your standard bourbon, caramel, vanilla flavors, but this is also a high rye profile as well. So you're gonna get a bit of spicy notes on the back end when you taste this one.
All right, so for my second, we got Four Roses, and this is also from Kentucky. This one has a flavor profile of some nuttiness, some spice. It tends to be fruit forward. It's not gonna have the most overly complex flavor. But for $33, I mean, this is a no-brainer. I definitely recommend checking this out. I'm actually gonna have a little sip of this one. I like Four Roses.
I like it.
You know what?
So this is one of my favorites to just sip on at home.
There you
at
go.
night while watching a game or something. I love the profile of Four Roses, and it's a smooth sipper. So many people are out there looking for allocated bottles that cost hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and that's fine, that's great. But you can find equally as impressive bourbons for very cheap if you know where to look, and that's why we're here today helping you find those.
When you taste it, you get spice, You get some of that wheat, some of that bread flavor. I would say this probably reminds me a little bit of like a raisin brand sort of. Maybe not. I don't know.
Hey, you called me out last time for hitting the raisins. I'm getting raisins. I was right.
I'm hitting the raisins.
I think you're hitting the raisins.
I'm hitting the raisins. So you can make a really good Manhattan with a Four Roses because of the cherry notes and the spice and everything that it has. You could sip this neat. You could sip this on the rocks, however you like it. I definitely recommend Four Roses.
Yeah, especially if you're just getting into whiskey or bourbon and you know you're not quite familiar with all the brands yet. These are a good place to start. So for my third recommendation here, we got Green River. So Green River Distillery is actually part of the Bourbon Trail in Kentucky, but it's kind of by itself over in Owensboro, Kentucky, so it often gets overlooked, and I think that's a mistake because this is delicious. The average MSRP for this one is $33, so again, another bourbon that you can easily find for under $35 with a great taste profile.
There you go. I will admit something to you guys right now. I have not tried this one before. Can I try a little bit?
Please, sir. I want some more.
Oh my gosh, I get French toast with maple syrup on top.
That sounds great right now.
It does sound great right now.
I'm actually getting a little bit of wheat.
French toast, bread, wheat.
Look at that. We are one fart smellers.
What? What?
Okay!
I just spilled whiskey on myself.
It's, you know, the old saying, one smart fellow felt smart. Say that 10 times fast.
It's one fart smell, smell.
There you go.
Oh.
You messed it up.
Did I?
Yep.
Oh.
One of the things that you can determine when you're tasting a whiskey is how thin or thick it feels on your tongue when you're tasting it. This one is super thick.
Yes.
It's like a blanket, and it's delicious.
Yeah, it feels like silk in your tongue.
Perfect. And, little fun fact, it's got this marking on here called DSP KY10. And what that means is it's the 10th oldest distillery in Kentucky.
Wow.
Yep.
So what's the oldest?
Spoiler, you're gonna tell us in a minute.
Oh, putting me on the spot. I don't like it. So for our final bottle today, we got the good old Buffalo Trace. So the oldest distillery is Buffalo Trace. It was once called OFC, Old Fire Copper Distillery. Long story short, it's now called Buffalo Trace, and that's what we're drinking today.
Yep.
It's become so popular that it's very, very hard to get now. But if you can find Buffalo Trace, definitely pick it up, because still to this day, Buffalo Trace is about $28, I want to say.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah, so definitely get Buffalo Trace if you can. This is the quintessential bourbon. Do you want to try it?
I will never turn down Buffalo Trace.
You cannot turn down Buffalo Trace.
Yeah.
It is affordable. You could use this to make old fashions. You could use this neat. Oh, I love me some Buffalo Trace. You just get immediately. You get that cinnamon. You get that vanilla. You get the caramel. If you want to stick to $35 or less, if you want to stick to if you want to stick to $35 or less, did we do $35? If we want to stick to $35 or less, these 6 bottles, that's the way to go. Because these are easily accessible for the most part. These are incredibly tasty. You could drink them neat, all of them. You could drink them neat, you could drink them on the rocks, you could drink them with soda.
And one thing I would recommend too, if you're having trouble finding some of these bourbons or whiskeys, join local bourbon groups. And you can do that on Facebook, you can do that on Reddit, and people in there will occasionally post on when these become available in local liquor stores. So if you're looking for bottles like that, that's a good resource to use. Now that we've given you our recommendations, our 6 recommendations for budget bourbons in 2024, we want to hear from you.
Please like, share, subscribe. Let us know which one is your favorite bourbon on a budget, $35 or less.
Thanks for following along with us today. Until next time.
Cheers.